Well, it is cold and miserable, you guys, so let's head into the shop and get some work done. All right, guys, so we got the Nissan inside. We're gonna work on cutting this thing to pieces tonight. Going to go ahead, get these doors off. We'll get the fenders off. I'm going to cut the inner fenders right at the firewall and get this whole front clip off and out of the way. We'll get a bunch of stuff off the engine that doesn't need to be there. Then jump to the interior, get all this gutted, and start getting the floor pan cut away from the firewall. We'll see how far we get tonight, no guarantees. But check all this stuff out. I picked up a vehicle from this old 80-year-old guy at my normal job today, and super cool guy. I got to talking to him. He's a retired airplane mechanic. He's been in racing. He's into mini bikes, go-karts, just super cool old guy. And he did have a couple Volkswagens. He just sold his last one. And he had all this stuff laying around his shop, and he just gave it to me. And like, check out those signs. So I told him it's all going to a good home. I'll put it to use. Those signs are gonna look good in the shop here somewhere. And he's actually heading to Florida for the winter, so he'll be gone for the next 4 months. But once he gets back, I invited him over. So I think there's a good chance he's gonna come hang out with us sometime. Maybe you guys will meet him. Like I said, super cool old guy. Probably has a lot to teach. I could learn a lot from him. And he hooked me up on that stuff, so thank you for that. But let's get to work on the truck. All right, guys, so give you a look at the mess we got going on here. Got doors, fenders, front clip, all that junk, wrecked mess off of there. That's what we ended up with. And I'm going to jump to the interior, get this gutted, and we'll start marking out the cab where we're going to cut it at, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, well, there's our mess. There's where we're stopping for the night. I could go a little farther, but yeah, I just cut myself. It's a good one. So we're gonna call it a night, and we'll see you guys in the morning. All right, guys, don't worry. I survived the night. Nothing a little electrical tape couldn't fix. And hanging out with Sid and Nancy today. Come on, fix that lip. What are you doing? What are you doing there? Show them how pretty you are. All right, bub, you got a pretty girlfriend. But me, Sid, and Nancy, we made kind of an executive decision on the Nissan rather than using this floor pan. Once I got to measuring, that Datsun cab ends way back here. So we'd have ended up cutting a big section of this floor pan out, and we'd have had to redo the rear body mounts, as well as narrow this thing about 4 inches on both sides, which would have got into, we're gonna have to move the brake booster over. Clutch master cylinder was right in the way. That was gonna have to get moved over here. That's just where the wiring harness goes through, so that was no big deal, but that was gonna be in the way, possibly lose the wiper, but also something we really don't care about. But at the end of the day, when we lose a big chunk of the rear a bunch of the sides and have to rework most of the firewall, as well as steering column was going to have to be lowered. So at that point, really, what are we saving? I would rather save this nice rust-free cab with a good title. Maybe we'll use it in the future rather than butcher it up to use 50% of the floor pan. So I went ahead and got everything unbolted. We are just going to start from scratch on the Datsun. It'll be worth one sheet of sheet metal, whatever that cost. Not as much as what this cab is worth to me. So I already got some square tubing. So the plan today, I want to get this cab off, get this chassis lowered down a good bit, and we'll get, hopefully, no guarantees, but hopefully get that Datsun cab test fit on there, and we'll get these wheels on there, start figuring things out. But it's kind of the rough plan. So head outside, give you guys a little update on that real quick. Alright, so Datsun ready to go. I did go ahead and cut the rocker panels off like I mentioned in the last video. Got the floor pan all cut out. Everything we're saving in the bed. Over here, all Nissan parts. I'll save anything worth saving. Doors, fender, then just a bunch of scrap metal. And show you guys my little mini garage over here. All Nissan parts that I really didn't have the heart to throw away yet. Somebody might need them. So they'll hang out there for a little bit until I need to store something else in there. And if nobody needs them by then, they're gonna head to the dumpster, I guess. But we're gonna go back inside. We'll get busy getting this cab off of here. And like I said, hopefully we have enough time today. We'll get it lowered down and at least try to get that Datsun cab set into place. I have a plan for that, but it'll be easier to show you guys as we go along rather than try to explain it to you right now. And yeah, that's the plan for the day. And hopefully we get that far because I have to get this thing pushed outside tomorrow. Got some buddies coming over. We're gonna be working on go-peds and mopeds and mini bikes and go-karts. So we're gonna need some room in the shop. So get busy and hopefully get this thing out of here today. What are you licking, bud? Huh? What are you licking? That can't be good. All right, you just along for the free ride, huh? Gotta make things harder on me. Such a good boy. All right, cab's off. Get this thing outside real quick, and we'll get to work on lowering this. Guys, you don't need friends to do this. You can do it by yourself. All right, guys, where to start on this thing? Got a lot of brain thoughts inside my head, and I'm not always the best at explaining them, but I'll give it a shot. So basically, where we're at, I want to get this thing 4 inches off the ground, and we are currently closer to 13. And the next problem, measuring top of the axle, we got just about 9 inches of axle clearance to the frame. So I'm sure you see the problem. We drop it 9 inches. Axle tubes going to be sitting on top of the frame, which we could come in here, put a C-notch in. That'd be no problem. And I would do that other than if we're cutting into the frame. This wheelbase is actually 4 inches longer than the Datsun. And my initial thought was, I thought I could cheat it, you know, maybe 1.5 inches here, 1.5 inches there, inch between the bed. And you could just kind of cheat it, especially since we're going to be cutting out our own wheel wells. I think we could have got away with it. But if we're cutting into the frame anyways, my thought, rather than C-notch it, is we're gonna come in here, cut the frame in half, probably right around the middle of this body mount somewhere. We'll shorten it our 4 inches, and then Z the back half of the frame to drop it 4 or 5 inches on top of some 4-inch blocks that's going in the rear. That'll give us our drop, plus, well, we got 9 inches of axle clearance. Even with our 4-inch blocks, we're still gonna have 5 inches of axle clearance, and we'll be able to keep a full stack of leaf springs, so it won't be super soft and bouncy. We'll still have good suspension, because I plan on beating the hell out of this thing, flying down dirt roads and dirt tracks and all over town being stupid. So that's kind of the plan for the rear. We'll see how that goes. And up front, it is just torsion bars. So we'll just crank down the torsion bars as far as they want to go. Factory shocks are going to have to go, and as well as the bump stop and that mount. We'll get all that out of there. See how low we can get the front of this. Hopefully we can get, I don't know, 6 or 7 inches of drop out of that. And the wheels and tires I picked up for it are 3 inches smaller than these ones. So bolting those up will give us another 1.5 inch clearance, or I'm sorry, 1.5 inch drop. So I think we can cheat everything on the cheap. And that's another thing I want to mention on this thing. I always like to keep you guys in the loop on how much I spend on stuff, just for the fact that I want some of you guys to watch this and realize you can do this without a ton of money, without a ton of tools. You just gotta get in the shop, use your imagination, and get to work. So how we're sitting now, I paid $400 for the Nissan, $400 for the Datsun, and $100 for these wheels. So we're only at $900 total in this build so far. And by the end of the day, hopefully we're gonna have this thing laying super close to the ground, have that cab at least test fit on there. Wheels will be on it, throw the fenders on it, maybe cut them out. It's gonna be super cool by the end of the day for the $900 we have invested in this thing. And this thing still has a cat on it, and that cab's really nice. I may sell it. So between the cab and that cat, when I scrap it, and the pile of scrap we have outside, I think we'll break even on the Nissan. So we'd only have $500 invested in this build at that point, which is pretty cool. But that's the plan. We're gonna get to work. First thing I'm gonna do, get this gas tank out of here, get it out of the shop as far away as we can, because as much grinding and welding and sparks we're gonna be making, I don't want that thing anywhere close to us. So gas tank's coming out. I'm gonna cut the exhaust off, and it hangs down a little low, so I'm just gonna go ahead, cut it off right in here. So when we weld it back on, shorten it up a little bit, completely eliminate all the air pump junk that we don't need. So that's the first thing, get that gas tank out of here, get drive shaft off, just so we can get this frame cut in half at some point, get that exhaust off, and then I'll probably jump to the front, get it lowered down, see where we're at with it, and then we'll jump to the rear. All right, things are escalating a little quicker than expected, but that happens around here. Gas tank, exhaust, all the other junk that didn't need to be on the back, we got off of there. And I'm gonna go ahead and start on the rear. I think I have some blocks, so we'll get some blocks on there, get wheels and tires on the back. Make sure we got some blocks actually. There's Got some U-bolts. And yeah, we got blocks. Good to go. I think those are 4-inch blocks. So we'll get the back of this thing lowered down between 4-inch blocks, 1.5-inch drop with the new wheels. They'll give us 5.5 inches, and get this thing on the ground, see exactly where we need to be at with the Z before we do anything stupid. And we'll also jump to the front, get this thing as close to the ground as we can, and come up with a game plan. All right, guys, so I do have to drill out a couple holes on the leaf spring saddle. New U-bolts are a little bit bigger, but we'll get this drilled out and get this rear end slaying back together. Nancy, you know anything about this? Huh? How about this? You know anything about that? Oh, is Sid? All right. Okay, so rear end's all back together. Got those 4-inch blocks in there. We may end up taking the leaf spring out. We'll see how it is after we get the front done. But got the wheels on there. See how much wider it's going to be with those. Going to jump to the front, and like I said, we're going to get these shocks off here. Going to cut out the bump stops and crank these torsion bars, and we'll see where that gets us and go from there. All right, guys, shocks are off, bump stops are off, and that little Cut 50 cheap Amazon plasma cutter that I am always bragging about, man, that thing is so good. I'm just blown away. You can buy a $150 plasma cutter that actually plasma cuts, and it does pretty freaking awesome. Yeah, 150 bucks. Even after Nancy ate all the leads, replaced those for 40 bucks, still under 200 bucks on a plasma cutter. Oh, I'm sorry. Sid ate the leads. That's right, bud. She blamed it on you. She said you did it. Yeah, I know you wouldn't do that. But, all right, so only thing left on the front, we're going to crank these torsion bars down, throw the wheels on it, we'll get it back on the ground and see where it sits. Okay, so I got the torsion bar on this side cranked down. I figured give you guys a look at exactly what I'm doing in case some of you may have never done this, don't understand what I'm doing. Super easy. You got a torsion bar, which is the front suspension on a torsion bar truck like this, and it just goes into the lower control arm. This end, you got this adjuster bolt here, which you crank it one way, it puts more tension on it. You crank it the other way, less tension on the bar, and that bar, the twist of the bar, is what holds the truck up and gives it any suspension at all. This side, I already cranked it down just to where that's loose. Once we get weight back on the truck, it should twist that bar a little bit, put more tension on it. We'll see where it's at. But you see that one there, how it is adjusted. Come to this side, I haven't touched it yet. You see how much of the adjuster bolt's still hanging out on this side, how little's up top. And there is a jam nut. So just spin this jam nut all the way off, then there's another nut right behind it, crank it. We may do this a few times, see exactly where it sits, but I'm going pretty big with it to start out with. So basically spinning it off all the way until the adjuster has a little bit of slack in it. Like I said, we'll get it on the ground and see where it sits after that. All right, guys, so check it out. We got the front back on the ground. Torsion bars are maxed out. That's about as low as they're going to go. And it got us in the ballpark of where I wanted it. Give you guys a little closer look. All right, so I was hoping to get this thing about 4 inches off the ground. We are currently about 5, but back end needs to come down, how far? About 3 inches, maybe 4. So as that comes down, it is going to lower a little bit up in the front. It'll get us pretty close to the 4-inch ground clearance that I'm hoping for. So hey, I'm not going to complain, especially for $3.99. But I'm going to jump back onto this rear. Going to mark where we're going to cut it, get that all figured out. We'll get it marked and start chopping it. Okay, so just a quick look at what I came up with. Basically, I'm going to come in here, cut along this line. This is the 3 inches that we're going to Z the frame in the back to drop the frame down. This is the 4 inches we're taking out for the wheelbase. So yeah, cut along here. Bottom of this frame will go where this is cut. Get us in the ballpark where we need to be. We'll get it tacked in place. And hey, Sid said he didn't chew that stuff, by the way. He didn't know what I was talking about. But yeah, that's the plan for that. So I'm gonna get this frame leveled up, get on some wood blocks or jack stands or something. So I do a couple quick measurements, then we're gonna cut the back of this frame off and weld it in a new place. All right, so we got this frame sitting perfectly level. 0 degrees. I leveled it underneath the cab area where it's flat, as well as the back half area. Checked it all 4 corners basically. So as long as we cut out that little 4 inches, notch it, slide it up, weld it back where everything's level, we should be pretty good. I'm not scared. You scared, Nancy? Yeah, you're not scared of anything, are you? All right, you're actually a big baby. But yeah, that's the plan. So fire up the grinder and let's cut this thing in half. Okay guys, so it is the moment of truth. Got it welded up, just some big ugly welds to hold it together next couple days while we push it around the shop. Obviously go back through, fish plate and weld all this up. And also cut all 4 body mounts off because no longer going to be needing those. But let's get this thing on the ground and see what we ended up with. Give it a little bounce to make sure it settles. And not bad, it's pretty good. Where's our tape at? All right, so where are we at with it? About 5 inches, 5.5, and 4.5, maybe 5 up front. So pretty close to what we were shooting for. I think once we get the weight of the body and everything in there, probably drop it down another inch. It'll be gold. Plus, look how much travel we still got with this thing. Same as in the back. Got all that axle clearance still. So we can beat the hell out of this thing down some dirt roads. And plenty of suspension travel still, so I'm happy with it. So I still have a little bit of time to work tonight. Guess I'm gonna drag that Datsun cab in here. Going to do some quick measuring, and the plan to get that thing mounted is I picked up some 2x2 and 2x3. We're gonna make our own rockers, which basically some outriggers, front and rear on the frame, out of the 2x2, then 2x3 laid tallways is going to be the actual rocker of the truck, and I'm going to extend it from front of the fender to back of the bed there. So the bottom of the body will now be all level, and we're going to set it up to where it's level with the bottom of the frame. Hopefully that makes sense. You guys will understand what I'm talking about. But either way, we're going to get these little rockers, rock slide, Nerf bars, whatever you want to call them, made up to where they're the same width of that cab. They're going to be welded to the frame, and the cab's going to sit down on top of it. We'll attack it in place for the time being. Eventually it'll get welded, and we'll make some plates to where it's removable if we ever got to pull the body off. But that's kind of the plan. Probably doesn't make sense to you guys, but you'll see as we go. You'll understand. So let's get busy. Okay, so we got the Datsun cab back in here, just working on stripping everything off of it that doesn't need to be there. I'm going to come in here and cut these inner fender wells right at the firewall and get this whole front clip out of our way. We'll probably end up reusing it, welding it back on, but it's just gonna make life a lot easier getting it out of our way for the time being. And this factory firewall, what's left of it, I'm going to cut right at that seam. Everything below that will be gone, so we can just get this cab on and off and test fit half a dozen times as easy as possible. So get all that stuff cut off of it, measure from outside rocker to outside rocker. And what I was talking about earlier, got some 2x2 and some 2x3. We're going to use this 2x2 as outriggers. Probably add more than 2, but for the time being, just on these flat areas, 1, 2. And we're going to make it the width of this cab. And at the end of those outriggers is going to be that 2x3 turned upright, I think. We'll see how it goes, but that's kind of the plan. So we'll have a 3-inch rocker underneath the entire truck that is basically like a rock slide attached to the frame of this thing. So hopefully you guys kind of understand what I'm talking about. I'm not very good at talking, but you'll see what I'm doing. So back to work. Oh, and got Kiwi now. Huh. Right, baby? You chase Nancy out of here? Yeah. All right. So back to work, and let's get this thing wrapped up for the night. Okay, so we got all our PC parts made. Cab is all cut out and ready to tack these pieces onto the frame. Then we'll slam this cab on here real quick and call it a night, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired. All right, guys, how cool is this thing? For 3 days work, under $1,000 so far. We really haven't bought anything. We lowered it for free. Didn't buy a C-notch, we just Z'd it for free. Basically, took all the stock parts of 2 trucks, cut them up, rearranged them, welding them, and making something way cooler. So, doesn't take a lot of money. You just gotta use your imagination and think outside the box a little bit, build something cool. I think this thing is super cool so far, but that's going to be a good stopping point for this video. I'm tired and filthy and I want to get inside. So we'll see you guys next time.
Hey, I think we should use some horsepower. Yeah, it is. They go. Pat, was this a good idea? Wrap the throttle cable around? Yeah, it worked. Bam, bam. No, this pipe, I'm not going off this pipe. I'm going off from here to the flange. Here to the flange. You think that pipe's straight? You just said it was square! You said you squared this thing up!
Yeah, but he gave a look when he said square.
Oh my god. Yeah, I said it's square.